Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title, in today's video we'll be talking about this very large winter storm that is currently making its way across the western United States. It is dropping very heavy snow across the west. The Sierra Nevada is potentially central and southern areas could get up to 6 feet of snow. So really a remarkable snowfall event there, but it won't stop there. It will spread into the north central United States with heavy snow to the south with some severe weather, the northeast and midwest and southeast with rain and snow. Do note that right now what I do have pulled up is the precipitable water anomaly, and well, not the anomaly, just the levels, and you can see the percentage of average some of these will be some of these water content tables will be at. Notice a good chunk of the Midwest right there on Tuesday, when this thing is going to be moving into the Midwest, is 260 to 240%, if not more, of the average. So really record high precipitable water values in the atmosphere, meaning very significant moisture with the system. And again, all of that obviously will not be falling as snow on that map, but that is the giant winter storm, and that all that moisture it's pumping up with itself. So really a remarkable event. It has tons of moisture from the Pacific, and it will continue to pick up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico as it moves through. So I want to start off by talking about the Northwest. Again, if you are a viewer from whatever part of the country, or I guess countries, because I do Southern Canada as well, go and skip to your region in the description box below on the blue numbers. You could click on them, and they're going to be right next to your region. It'll skip ahead to that region, so you don't have to watch the whole darn video, as this will probably be close to 30 minutes long. So skip to your region. I begin with the Northwest. Let's go. Again, the Northwest has already dealt with a lot of the impacts from this system. It's been a remarkably impactful storm for these areas, but it's been more remarkable the pattern that's been going around for the Northwest for a good while now, and it's going to continue to be active. Notice what we do have right now is waning precipitation shields of snow and rain across Washington, Oregon, and southwestern Canada, meaning British Columbia, mainly, as Alberta and Saskatchewan stay predominantly cool and dry. Though notice that across obviously northern Nevada, northern Utah, if you want to classify that as the Northwest, there is some snow. And while this may seem that it's moving away from the Northwest, with states like Washington and Oregon and Idaho, that is the case. Well, southern Idaho will still see some snow from this. Notice that as we get into tonight, so into the new year, and I forgot to say also Happy New Year's to everyone, Happy New Year's Eve. I wanted to say that as well. I forgot about that. But do note that as we push this into the overnight hours into Saturday, right? So Saturday and into Sunday, into New Year's Day, we see the snow starting to lift back up as the system takes on a northeastern trajectory back into potentially southeastern Idaho and much of Wyoming. So Wyoming, you guys are going to be in on this snow through the day. On Sunday, you can see it continues well into the overnight hours and into Monday, hitting Cheyenne, Casper, and whatnot. A lot of these location. And do note that by late Monday into early Tuesday, it's done across the northwestern portions of the state. So Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, still affecting though Wyoming itself, southeastern Wyoming, and obviously Nebraska and the north central United States there. But this thing will be predominantly done by the day Tuesday for the Northwest, before we have another system moving in. So in that time frame, the main precipitation that will be occurring is obviously towards the southern parts of the Northwest and across Wyoming. So obviously this will mainly falling in a form of snow. So if you look at the total snowfall, you can see it's pretty significant. We have amounts that are ranging from 8 to 12 inches across Wyoming, with higher elevations picking up potentially well over a foot, maybe a foot and a half, if not more. We do note some light snow across Idaho, the Cascades, Washington, and Oregon is still possible, though it's not heavy at all. And notice that southeastern Idaho also could be picking up a little bit of snowfall, but predominantly it's done for these areas. The snowfall amounts here are already, again, wrapping up. If you look at a different model, like the European model, it is also predominantly moving the system out of the Washington, Oregon area by the time I'm recording this video. And do note that it pushes some some snow back, just like the GFS, into southeastern Idaho and Wyoming on the day on Sunday, Monday, and it also wraps things up by the time Tuesday comes along. So by the time we're at hour 78, it's over, and I want to show you some of these snowfall amounts across the Northwest. So this is on Tuesday. You can see additional snow, very minimal across these areas in southwestern Canada, but again, Wyoming and southwestern Idaho still could pick up quite a bit of snow from this. And we do have obviously winter storm warnings issued for these areas. If you look at Wyoming, it's all almost covered, or at least a good 2/3 of it in either winter storm warnings or winter weather advisories. Expected snowfall again, the higher elevations, especially right here, that little mountainous track that will be obviously picking up very heavy amounts, potentially over 3 feet. Elsewhere, though, you can see it's a lot more tame. It's still a pretty big system, and if I were to click on that area right there, I think that's where that little heavy stripe of snow is. I'm assuming because this is higher elevated. You can see 10 to 16 inches, 5 to 9, 3 to 5. So it's a pretty big event. Nonetheless, definitely something that the snowpack will benefit from. Let's move on now and start showing you the southwestern United States. So this is another area that is, currently dealing with the impacts, and they're going to be quite significant. So if you're watching this on New Year's Eve still, and you live across, say, Las Vegas, northern Arizona, you guys will have quite a bit of a messy day ahead of yourselves and a messy night. So right now you're absolutely snowing heavily across the Sierra. During the night, it was mainly mainly rain across the northern Sierra, but now as the system intensifies, there's more cold air being pulled in from the north. You can see across central northern Nevada and a good portion of the central Sierra and southern Sierra, it's mainly snow, and it's very heavy snow. You can see it's very slow moving. We have some very heavy rain occurring in the valleys right now. So South Lake Tahoe right now, I saw a webcam from it. Very, very heavy snowfall occurring. Reno, also snowfall going on across much of Nevada. You can see predominantly snow. It was more mixed earlier on in the day. If this radar loads, you'll be able to see there was a lot more rain, especially in the valleys where you can see some of those deserts, those little desert strips are. Now it's, again, predominantly snow for a good chunk of these areas, and you can see it's beginning to shift towards the south. So Las Vegas tonight into New Year's Eve, you guys will have a wet forecast. Much of California, unfortunately, is dealing with a lot of rain for New Year's Eve, so that is something to note. You're going to notice Salt Lake City, the mountains around you are dealing with snow, but you guys are currently seeing rain. Let's quickly show you what the HER model shows. So this is a model that goes out not that terribly far out, but it sacrifices a lot of its short-term or long-term, view for its accuracy, and it's the best model if you look at in the short term. So notice the snow is obviously occurring very heavily into 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. This is Central Standard Time, so minus 2 hours. This is now 7 p.m. local time. Notice 10, 11, it's moving away from areas like Tahoe and North Oroville, whatnot. Reno also starting to see those amounts subside, but the heavy rain is moving to Los Angeles, San Diego, Santa Barbara. Snow still occurring across Nevada. Now the rain moving into Las Vegas, Lake Mead. Notice Salt Lake City itself transitioning from rain and into snow, and as this thing pushes into Arizona, you can see the snowfall amounts across the higher elevations also start adding up, and this is now into the day on Sunday. You can see 3, 4, 5 p.m. This is into the evening now. You can see it kind of slows down the system and starts regurgitating some snow across, again, Utah still, Arizona. It's done in California by really tomorrow during midday. Same thing with Nevada, but it's still hanging around across Colorado, Utah, and obviously Arizona and New Mexico. You can see potentially even intensifying across Colorado as we get into the day on Monday. And we have, of course, another system moving in at that time as the active pattern continues. Total snowfall, again, this will be pretty remarkable snow here, especially across the southern Sierra. Notice central Nevada, the Wasatch, Salt Lake City picking up several inches of itself, Flagstaff, into areas of New Mexico that are higher elevated areas, also picking up quite a bit of that snowfall. And again, we're not completely done with the snow here, as you saw, it only goes out to 48 hours. So let's take a look at the GFS, and you can see the GFS adds on more snow. Cities like Denver seeing easily 3 to 5, if not more, inches of snowfall, depending on how this exactly unfolds. Looking at the European model snowfall outlook, you can see it's pretty similar. Very heavy snow across, again, that central central northern Nevada. The Sierras obviously picking up a lot into Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado as well. Rockies definitely getting a decent snowfall event out of this. Good news for the people that are enjoying the ski resorts and whatnot. This is definitely an event that's going to prove beneficial for those areas. So obviously, if you look at the National Weather Service, we have areas of advisories, warnings all across the Southwest here. So stay tuned to your local National Weather Service offices, and they will provide you the details that you basically need to know. And you can see, if you look at let's take a look at Salt Lake City, because again, your guys is a tricky city here. Rain, snow, going back and forth. Right now, mainly predominantly rain, especially the further away you get from the mountains. But you could see tomorrow 2 to 4 inches, Sunday night 3 to 5, so there will be some snow. It's just going to be a little bit later on in the day. If we take a look at let's see, so let's take a look at Denver. Denver's another area that's kind of on the front lines of this. It's going to be hard to see what exactly you guys get depending on how the system behaves. There will be some rain at the beginning, but you can see 1 to 2, 2 to 4 inches, so more snow heading towards you as well. And obviously there's flash flood warnings and flood advisories going on right now across California because of all of that heavy rain, and that will continue into the night tomorrow, but should be done by again tomorrow. New Year's Day will be actually very nice, but a lot of rain tonight. So it's not necessarily bad news. The dams and reservoirs are going to be picking up a lot of precipitation that's much needed. Let's move on now to the north central United States. So this is where the storm is right now. You can see delivering precipitation across the Southwest, but you guys are still relatively quiet. You guys will be seeing warmer temperatures across much of these states, and even across the north, where it won't get necessarily warm. It will get warmer from where it is currently, and you can see there is some already warm advection out ahead of this system, pumping out some showers and a little bit of snow out ahead of this. And if you look at the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map, we have some winter storm watches and warnings already posted. Again, cities like Minneapolis, Aberdeen, Lincoln, not Lincoln, but they're going to definitely be seeing precipitation. Lincoln and Omaha, but more of North Platte, Scottsbluff, cities like that. Sioux Falls will be in the gun for some heavy snowfall with this system, and other areas heavy rain. Let's take a look at this. And if you recall, a few days ago there was a discussion between potential GFS versus European scenario. The GFS was more northern, the European more southern and central. And it seems that the European and Canadian were the ones that are more favored compared to the GFS. So again, as I mentioned, there's going to be some showers into tonight across the Midwest, mainly Chicago, Wisconsin. That could put a tamper on some New Year's Eve activities across Michigan as well. But the day on Sunday, you see warming temperatures. But by early Monday, we see already snow breaking up across in Nebraska, South Dakota, and into cities like Minneapolis. Again, the GFS still a little bit more northern, so you can see there could be some mixing into the Twin Cities. But we also see very significant rainfall developing in Iowa, Missouri. Again, there's still some difference between the GFS and the European. The GFS showing that rainfall a bit more, if you will, disconnected from that snow, while the European, I'll show you in just a second, it shows a more cohesive storm, if you will. Some very heavy snowfall totals could be, or snowfall rates could be occurring across the South Dakota area into the day on Monday and into early Tuesday. Thankfully, they won't be lasting for too long, so we'll keep the amount relatively, I guess, tame. I mean, it still could get well over a foot of snow. And then notice that the GFS takes this thing and starts moving it more quickly with some pretty nasty rain across southern Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and into Ohio. Some of this could be some thunderous downpours and even some potential strong thunderstorms. Notice across Minnesota, Wisconsin, this snow continues into day on Tuesday. The GFS points just north of the big cities in Minnesota, St. Paul, St. Cloud, Minneapolis. St. Cloud isn't on this, but again, the European shows a bit further towards the south. This thing moves out and is basically done with the north central United States by the time it's late Tuesday, and what we will see after that is a gradual cooling trend. Not barbaric cold air, but definitely cooler air, especially compared to what will be out ahead of this thing, where we could see 60s as far north as Chicago, Detroit, and what's not. So that's going to be something that's noticeable as well. And there could be a little bit of snow that pivots into, say, northern Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin there onto the day on Wednesday and Thursday. That is definitely something to watch for, and we will have to monitor. Again, nothing too heavy though, it seems. So by the time this thing's all said and done, in terms of total accumulated precipitation, this thing will be dropping obviously quite a bit of precipitation, especially near where that severe weather and that heavy downpours could be occurring. Again, the moisture with this system, as I showed you at the beginning of the video, is rather incredible. The values are pretty much reaching record-breaking levels. So depending on where this exactly lines up, these heaviest downpours, you could pick up quite a bit of rain. You can see the GFS, not everyone's seeing that heavy rain, but again, this is just the GFS. I'll show you the European in just a second. I think it has a better handle, but I want to show you all the models so you don't get, so you get a nice idea of what's to come. Do note that across central Minnesota, again, just north of the Twin Cities, according to the GFS, unlike the European, it shows those amounts just north of the cities are still heavy though, and you can see that we really see amounts potentially over a foot, if not more, again, where that snow does end up falling. It's a pretty narrow band though, so some of those impacts are limited. However, again, it's occurring during a pretty, active travel time, New Year's Day, and the days following. So that's definitely something we will have to obviously take in account as well. And that's why there are the winter storm watches issued for a good area here, not just where that snow, according to the GFS, will fall. Because if you look at the model like the European now, again, you can see the snowfall track is a lot more further towards the south. Well, not a lot more, but it's noticeably further towards the south, which in cases cities like Minneapolis, St. Paul, with potentially, well over a foot. Again, a potentially very big snowfall event for you guys. In northern Wisconsin, getting in on some pretty heavy snowfall as well. It could be approaching a foot as well, if not more. And you can see across Nebraska, the panhandle of Nebraska, picking up some decent snowfall. And you can see that the European, with that wraparound snow I was talking about across Wisconsin, Illinois, potentially adding a few inches of snow, that is something to watch for as well. Let me time this out for you guys, because I want to show you that rain and that snow and how it's just kind of a different system compared to the GFS almost. It looks like a completely different system. Not completely, but there are some noticeable changes. So notice, if you recall, the GFS showed those streaks of precipitation, indicating more of some convective precipitation occurring on a warm side of this. Notice that obviously the European shows more ice, more snow, and that's why I believe this is a better handling of the system, not only because it's more realistic with what happened with the system like this and based off the thermal profiles of the temperatures, but the National Weather Service has expanded the winter storm watches all the way into southern Minnesota, so that means they're also leaning towards the European model. And do note that this rain, according to the European, not as thunderous and downpoury as your GFS shows, but it's more widespread, so many areas getting some nice, an inch and a half of rainfall, maybe not an inch and a half, but up to an inch of rain. Obviously, further south, where the storms will be stronger, that's going to be remarkably more. Notice, again, these snowfall rates up here are going to be occurring very, very fast, very quickly, very heavy. And you can see, again, the European, just like the GFS, shows that little bit of that wraparound precipitation. So by the time it's all said and done, there will be quite a bit of rainfall. And you can see it's a bit more widespread than what the GFS showed. So that's the main difference for you guys. And again, stay tuned to your local National Weather Service for the precise details, especially if you live across where that snow is, just north or just south of you. And then across Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, obviously the rain, when that will start, when that will end. For the precise details, go to your local National Weather Service. Let's talk about the South Central United States, as this is another area that we will have to really be on the toes for. I apologize, there's my cat going out wrong, rubbing into myself. Maybe you'll see him in the background. So the GFS, again, let's start off with you guys. So again, there's that little difference if you recall. The GFS shows more of a quick moving northerly system. So what this will mean is no snow for you guys across the South Central, but you guys will see a lot of warm winds, warm temperatures, strong winds, I should say, warm temperatures. Both models show that, and you can see that by Monday we see snowfall breaking out across Oklahoma, Arkansas, and into Missouri, Tennessee, pretty wide area, and the GFS really takes this and blasts this off. So we really see those bright colors again, indicating some strong thunderstorms into late Monday and Tuesday. I would say the biggest day of severe weather from this storm is going to be late Monday and into Tuesday, and more of the southeast is going to be impacted on Tuesday. So for the South Central, I would say Monday, and you can see right there 12 a.m. So this is, albeit still Monday, it's very late. And then you can see crosses the Mississippi. So for some areas like western Kansas, western Oklahoma, western Texas, you could see you guys won't really be seeing much out of the system other than some temperature changes. So that's something to watch for. And again, according to the GFS, some of this rainfall will be pretty heavy, obviously, where it occurs, maybe several inches. And these type of events, we typically see some flash flooding events. Do note that if you look at the European, the total precip is a bit more widespread, I would say, and it's slightly bit more towards the west. Yesterday there was a bigger difference. The GFS showed that precipitation a bit more further towards the east, the European towards the west, and the GFS has agreed more with the European. So because of that, I also prefer the European scenario. And let me show you that one, play it out for you time by time. So again, tomorrow during the day, tonight, still all good. Do note Oklahoma City, Dallas, you guys are right on the cusp of seeing some very heavy rain, so you may or may not, depending on the exact track of this, but Arkansas, Missouri, eastern Kansas, Iowa, Louisiana, you guys will be seeing that snowfall or rainfall nonetheless, pretty much. However, the system folds out, and you can see again some of these storms will be really strong. They will have a lot of rain to do with this. They will bring a lot of rain because of, again, as I showed you, those precipitable those precipitation values in the atmosphere, which are extremely high for this time of the year, again reaching pretty much record values for the south as well. So that's going to be a concern as well, the flash flooding event potentially from that. And again, the European, as I quickly mentioned or showed you at the beginning here, is also going to be showing some very significant rainfall, potentially underplaying some of these amounts here, where you could easily see 2, 3, 4 inches in some of these thunderstorms. And again, speaking of the severe weather, if you go on Monday, this is what the Storm Prediction Center officially has. You can see thunderstorms occurring as far north as Illinois, Wisconsin there, but the severe ones, the strong ones, mainly targeting eastern Texas, northwestern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas, and extreme southeastern Oklahoma. Again, I would not be surprised to see this maybe even upgraded towards a moderate in some a small area. Again, at that point, it doesn't really matter. The main message is it's a dangerous situation. There could be tornadoes, there could be winds. They don't have the categorical or this threat by threat hail wind tornado yet. They will issue that tomorrow, but you can see it's pretty high and it's a pretty large area affecting large metropolitan areas. You can see they have them listed here in the most severe concerning area. They have Shreveport, Little Rock, Tyler, Longview, but then also they have large cities like Houston, Dallas, Memphis, Fort Worth. So large population centers. There will be quite a bit of people impacted by these thunderstorms, and again, the snow, the rain across the west and north central United States is obviously a concern and a worry, but these severe thunderstorms are potentially going to be the ones that cause the most amount of damage there, so that's definitely something we will have to keep an eye on for. Again, obviously, if you live here, stay tuned to your local National Weather Service, as this is something that is a very minute-to-minute scenario. When you have a tornado warning or whatnot, they're obviously keeping an eye on this. So, and again, besides the severe weather threat, there's also just a very heavy rainfall occurrence and threat there. So stay tuned for that. Again, your biggest threat there is on Monday. So let me start off and now go off and show you the Northeast, another area that necessarily won't be seeing too much impacts from this. Obviously, you will be impacted. Right now, notice you guys are dealing with rain from the first system that I was talking about earlier in the week. Nothing significant out of this one, just some rain. It pulls away by tomorrow. However, what you do see out ahead of this storm is some warm southerly winds and warm temperature. Notice you guys see a nice precipitation shield across the inner northern areas of the Northeast and southern Canada there. Notice Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware picking up some rain as well. But then we see a disconnect. You can see the system weakens as it hits the Northeast, so there's going to be an initial thud of precipitation on the day on Tuesday, but by Wednesday, not much, especially further north. A little bit of cooler air mixing in, but the coastal area still getting on some precipitation there, and by the time it's all said and done, you can see Friday it starts drying out, though there still could be some sort of maybe a coastal development trying to produce some snow across Virginia here, West Virginia, extreme northern Virginia, Maryland, the panhandle, if you will, of Maryland, and the panhandle of Virginia, and extreme southern Pennsylvania. But again, there's just too little confidence on that, so we will have to wait and see. Regardless, total accumulated precipitation, you can see pretty broad, pretty widespread, combined from the two systems, the one that's going on right now and from the next one. Nothing too heavy. For heavier as you get towards the south, especially southern Indiana and extreme southeastern Ohio, there could be some pretty significant rainfall if the thunderstorms do end up getting that far north with that initial thud on Tuesday. But further north, you can see nothing really too bad. So for the Northeast, you guys have been seeing a lot of activity, at least with this one. You will be getting a break. European shows some slightly higher amounts. Some areas getting up to 2 inches. Obviously, where the heavy rainfall or snowfall did fall across Buffalo and even areas otherwise that saw heavy snow from the past recent events, it won't take a lot of rain to cause some hydrologic issues with flooding and whatnot. So I would recommend to still take precautions. But again, by itself, if your area doesn't have snow, this shouldn't be that much of a concern. The amount of precipitation that's falling isn't something you guys haven't really seen. It's just your classic kind of rainy winter storm, and you can see that there it is, the European showing a pretty similar scenario. What it does do differently though than the GFS is that secondary little wave of precipitation that the GFS kept closer towards the shore. The European develops a bit more intensely, and you can see there's more thunderstorms and more rain, so that's definitely something we'll have to watch for. Again, the European has had a lot of things, if you will, correct with this system. It's shown a lot of things that ended up panning out across the west that the GFS didn't show and the European did show, and a European ended up being correct. So this could definitely be a possibility, and you can see the European even shows some snow potentially mixing in here that could be heavy at times. And this is again by Thursday, so this is still a little bit far out. Obviously, I'll keep you guys updated. For now, let's just give you guys a mention that that's a possibility. And you can see further back across Ohio, West Virginia, that's also a potential. But again, this is still, it's just too it's too tricky. And you can see that even the European maybe tries developing some sort of a coastal storm here on a Friday. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of different scenarios with that type of stuff right there. Again, if obviously the European were to come true, the rainfall, as I showed you, would be a bit heavier, and also there would be that snowfall that the European shows a bit more of. So that's definitely something we want to watch for. Overall, though, nothing too incredible. Again, as I said, the biggest part of this winter storm, the legendary status of it, well, not legendary, but the big, the thing that warrants its title, that I titled it, whatever I called it, big, massive, huge. It's across the west and north central United States where it'll show its true colors. Further east, it kind of weakens and it starts disintegrating. So I kind of want to, don't want to leave your expectations way too high. Southeastern United States, another area that I'm concerned about because of, well, simply put, heavy rain, but also severe weather. So notice that on a day on Monday, there could be some severe weather getting into Mississippi, right? But mainly west of the southeastern United States on Monday. But by Tuesday, again, day 4, so still a little bit out. There's a slight risk already issued. I'm pretty much confident that there will be an enhanced issued, again, somewhere around that area. So this includes Alabama, most of Alabama, a good chunk of Mississippi, Louisiana, portions of Tennessee, and Georgia. Again, this could be expanded into well into the panhandle of Florida. We'll have to wait and see. You can see some large cities, New Orleans, Atlanta, Birmingham, Baton Rouge, Montgomery, at least a population of 14 million people right there in that criteria. So it's definitely a concern. Let's show you what the GFS shows. I'll show you what the European shows as well, as there's some different scenarios like ongoing here. Warm winds, warm temperatures infiltrating out ahead of the system. Notice the rain starting on Monday, mainly again west of the southeastern areas, but you can see it starts exploding that severe weather towards Missouri, Arkansas, eastern Texas, and then that moves into across the Mississippi, across the day into Monday and into Tuesday. Again, you can see the biggest threat for you guys will be on the day on Tuesday across Tennessee, Kentucky, some heavy rainfall, but again, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida potentially. And what we do see here is potentially several re-strengthening and weakening phases of this cold front. So notice right now, this is what the GFS shows at 12 p.m. Tuesday, potentially seemingly falling apart towards the end of the day, but then re-strengthening. You can see redeveloping some precipitation back here while continuing it into the Carolinas there. So again, this could be a bit of a prolonged event than what we typically see with just a nice clean passing front. You could see that on Wednesday there could also be still some severe weather across the Carolinas, probably just enough to warrant a slight risk. Still something you have to watch out for. And by the time we get into Thursday, this thing's mainly done, potentially maybe again acting up with some sort of a little disturbance here into something a little bit of a separate storm, but that's a possibility that is kind of small, so I don't want to mention that if it's not really likely to happen. Total accumulated precipitation from the GFS, pretty heavy. A lot of these areas did see quite a bit of rain in the past few weeks, so that's also a concern. Obviously, where you do see the severe thunderstorms, the amounts, or even just thunderstorms, amounts could be a lot higher locally. European model, let me show you what this one shows in terms of the timing out of this cold front. Again, not remarkably different, but there are some subtle differences that make enough of a change. So again, there's that system on Monday, that severe weather and rain develops. Potentially, you could see what the European does is a bit further westward, so already shows some rain late Monday across Mississippi. This is really going to be non-severe type, though it could definitely be heavy and flooding downpours. But notice the main cold front is still across Arkansas, Louisiana on early Tuesday, and only gets there by midday Tuesday across the southeast. And you can see some of this, again, just like the GFS, it shows that initial cold front already getting into Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky by the time we are late Tuesday, but then redeveloping some precipitation and stalling this cold front out. That could obviously lead to a prolonged severe weather event. Again, I do believe the first wave of that cold front will be the worst, but the second one could still be providing some severe storms, but obviously a lot of heavy rainfall. And you can see that it also does eventually move out just a little bit later through the day on Wednesday, and then the European potentially tries developing a system out across the northeast here, which could lead to some more slowdown of this precipitation. So the European, your main takeaway, more precipitation. If I were to lean towards any model, I would say the European has a better handle of the system based on characteristics that it picked up across the west and north Central United States that the GFS did not pick up on. And you can see that some of these, again, amounts were some of those precipitation, where we have several thunderstorms or whatnot locally. Again, 4, 5, 6 inches, not out of the question. And not to mention the severe weather threat, which is also going to be concerning here. Following this system, I want to give you guys a little overview of the country, what's to come, and what we could be expecting for the United States. So obviously a lot of the northeast, southeast, even the central United States is going to be dealing with warm temperatures out ahead of this. Again, there's going to be cool down, and this gets as far as the south. cools temperatures off as far as the southeast, but it won't be barbaric cold. It's not really Arctic cold. It's just more seasonable temperatures, and so that's good. You won't see any flash freezing like we saw last time. And then you can see that the pattern does stay a little bit uncertain. We see a continued Pacific flow, but it seems that there's more cold air available. So any storm that does make its way and brings snow a little bit further towards the south, still you can see activity across the south here, potentially developing into some sort of a storm. Again, staying towards the south though, so mainly a rainmaker and severe storm concern. Further north, maybe some sort of a clipper trying to develop into nor'easter. The models are all over the place. The European also shows some similar funky weather. If you look back at the morning run of the GFS, it kind of looks way different compared to the most recent one, which gives us an idea of how unconfident the GFS is and really all the other models. So this is what it shows, the GFS. You can see that the morning one showed some sort of a nor'easter there, or a bigger northeast system on Saturday, January 7th. Keeps that northwest flow, but you can see it also shows some more Arctic air, and again, potentially developing more rain and snow, potentially even further south. Again, the models are jumping all over the place. We'll have to wait and see what actually ends up happening. As for now, it's too early to tell. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new, but for the most part, hopefully you guys are a little bit better prepared for the system. And I'll catch you all guys in the next episode, and this is my last video of the year. So take care guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Later. Bye.